The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Rev. And Commander COVID is launching.
Biting at the bit. Okay. Total Massachusetts count was 117,450, an increase of 365. Total deaths is 8,775. New deaths is 20. We got the Bristol County counts again, 9,022. Fall River saw 7 new cases, putting our total at 1,896, and no new fatalities, keeping us up. That should be keeping us at 121, excuse me. And yesterday, the city was declared a green zone. So they downgraded our infection zone area. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And, you know, Paul's been looking for that. I mean, and technically, with it being a green zone, if the school department and the school committee wanted to, they could make it, you know, fully in-person learning. But again, the teachers union doesn't want that. So you have to pick your battles.
Yeah. Well, look, statistically and statistics and the questions about testing, and also remember I saw literally 50 to 75 people playing basketball up at Robeson. So obviously their medical opinion that the younger crowd doesn't really get it or doesn't have a lot of symptoms, but then those people go out into the community and spread. So we'll see. Look, the reality is we have to deal with it. It's here, and you know they've made this into a political football, which is, you know, in my opinion, just BS. Because look, it doesn't matter. The reality is this is a medical issue, and it has to be taken care of by the medical professionals, and even the medical professionals aren't in total agreement with what to do and how to do it. And we see states like South Dakota that have virtually never closed down completely.
Right.
Never had any mask requirements. But all the governor of South Dakota did was ask the people to use common sense. So apparently people in South Dakota have a lot more common sense than most of the people in the other states, because we see what happened in Florida on the beaches and stuff. South Dakota is a classic example of what we've been saying since the beginning of this pandemic, CJ, that if people paid attention and just did what they were supposed to do individually, it wouldn't be anywhere near as bad as it is. And, you know, I mean, obviously that's my opinion, but I think it's borne out by when we look at a comparison of a state like South Dakota. And granted, South Dakota does have an advantage. It's not heavily populated like New York or you know, but you know, the beaches aren't heavily populated with anything except aquatic life. So when you have, you know, 150,000 students on your party, and that's just a total lack of consideration for the situation we're in. So, hey, it is what it is, right?
Well, you remember the Sturgis motorcycle gathering?
Yep.
That happens every year.
Yes.
They didn't use any social distancing. They didn't use any masks. They were clustered together, and that one shows what happens. And they had over 100 positive COVID cases within a matter of a week of having that event. Am I saying they shouldn't have done it? I don't know. It's not my call, but it's, you know, it's interesting how we have events which precede the diagnosis, and nobody correlates them. Nobody uses any common sense because, again, that's the least common of all senses.
True. And there you go, as you said. Sturgis, and if you look at Sturgis isn't a bunch of high school teenagers. They're older people who are motorcyclists, and many of them are fairly old, and they still ride. And Sturgis is the biggest of any of them. And like you said, you think you'd say, okay, to highlight the fact that it's all about you doing what you should do. You look at overall what happened in South Dakota, and then you look at Sturgis. Well, okay, they had cases. So common sense, as you said, is the least common of senses.
Yes, that's true. Just so people know, for again the least common of all senses, and now the mayor has a good point to put this on, because we are now in the green. Today at Durfee High School, 7 p.m. The gates are opening. There's a drive-in movie night, $5 per carload. I still don't know where that $5 is going, or where it went from the last.
Well, why the hell should it be any different than all the money in the city of Fall River? Right?
Yeah. Masks and social distancing are still mandatory. It's today, West Main parking lot. Gates open at 7 p.m. Show starts at 8, and the movie is Finding Dory. So if you want to do something with your family, remember, according to the regulations, you must stay in your vehicle. And people have found loopholes, like sitting in the beds of a pickup truck, and you're still in your vehicle that way, but you must stay in your vehicle. The use of blankets around your vehicle and of chairs, that is not in the regulations. So just keep it appropriate, and remember, use some common sense and stay safe if you go.
Yeah. Well, as you said, since we're talking about where the money goes, the money at the upcoming city council meeting, again, Fall River does what it's best at. Let's see what the city council does, because again, the city council has been put under the gun. Again, held it exactly. I had a conversation with a city councilor about that last night, and I gave my opinion, which is, as far as I'm concerned, you should just keep it on 112 for another month until you have adequate time to look at the budget. Because the reality is, again, September 1st is we're going to meet, and then September 1st is here. So if we don't, oh my God, we're not going to have a budget. We're not, tough. They should have had their numbers straight earlier. You should have demanded the numbers. You should have had them there. You should have ample time to bring people in. Because look, classic example again, all the controversy about the healthcare. The healthcare numbers are not even done by the city of Fall River. They are screwed up by the city of Fall River, but they are not done by the city of Fall River. Blue Cross takes the experience from the last year. They look at the experience. They have an actuarial projection for the following year. They look at the industry trends and the cost of healthcare. They factor in a cushion, and they come down with a renewal package and an amount. And they are very, very good at it. Obviously, they do it through the entire country. And Massachusetts Blue Cross has always been pretty well on, since we've never run over budget. And then that number is taken by Gallagher, formerly Group Benefit Strategies, and further refined, because we had prescription carve-outs and stuff, and they come up with a number. So two professional entities, a healthcare giant and a company that does this, come up with a number. So why is it so difficult when we go in front of the council? Because you know who ends up starting to play around with those numbers? Mary Sahel. Well, because she's not looking at the healthcare cost and say, okay, this is it. This is what goes in the budget. She's figuring out how much money she can she can stick in it a pad so she can use it as a slush fund, how much money she can say that we're not going to do, and all of a sudden they attack the healthcare system of all the employees because they're looking for money. Yet they can voluntarily take out money now that's being budgeted to pay for salaries or pay for whatever to subsidize public safety. Now that's ridiculous because that bill is not going to disappear. And number one, let me explain something. They're violating their own a vote of the city council because every single collective bargaining agreement in the city of Fall River, not only fire and police, who they're going to give the money to, but DPW and the city hall workers and everything else, has a collective bargaining agreement that says the city is responsible for 75% of the healthcare premium. So when you take that money out, you're taking money out from people who are not going to benefit by that money, number one. And you're also violating your vote when you approved every single one of those collective bargaining agreements. Because Chapter 150E, Section 7, I'm not going to tell you the subsection, go look it up. It says that within 30 days of the execution of a collective bargaining agreement, it has to go in front of the governing body and all cost items must be funded. So if you take money away from the funding to use it, you are overriding a vote you took on that contract. You are violating a law. And secondly, you are not helping public safety. That's the point I want to make. Robbing money to put a Band-Aid on it for this year does not change it. It's going to be there next year. What do we say about things? Reoccurring bills. We're not supposed to use short-term money for reoccurring bills. You were supposed to have money. You're supposed to know where the money's coming from. And next year, whatever they use it for this year in public safety, it's not going to disappear. It's not. It may even get larger because you and I do not know. I haven't looked at their collective bargaining agreements, but there are going to be people who get increases in their salary because of a step raise and a time on a job, different other benefits that are going to increase. There may even be a negotiated pay raise for the entire bargaining unit. So all those things are compounded. And I told the council last night, it is fiduciarily irresponsible to do this. Not only is it illegal, but it's irresponsible. This is not the way you do it. You don't take money from healthcare. So what's the next thing we're going to do? What other account are we going to rob money from to stick our finger in the dike this year, knowing next year is going to be worse? This is absolutely wrong. If the city councils, like I said on the last show, referring to Councilor Peckham, but to all these councilors, if you truly want to protect public safety, prioritize public safety. Ensure that those departments are being run efficiently and effectively, and then give them the money to run. Do not threaten to cut that department as a first. It should be a last. If you're truly committed to public safety, find other areas in the budget, like all these extra jobs we got and all these automatic pay, all these cost of living raises. You can find the money, because I can find it in about 5 minutes. And then take that money and give it to public safety. And give it to them every year. And eliminate those things. Tighten your belt. Well, who was it? Kevin Aguirre that said that? Look the other way. And kudos to Kevin Aguirre. So that's my little rant on that. And it's outrageous. And if I was in the city council, I would reject the budget and tell them to come in for a month and give me the time I need to look into that budget to get the money to truly fund public safety.
But the administration doesn't want that. The administration wants that budget passed now. And it's obvious that Cliff Ponte didn't care because he waited until Monday to have the hearings. He had all week to do this. He had all week. So who's not exercising their fiduciary responsibility? And here's the other thing. The reason why they have to have something passed on Monday by midnight, is because Tuesday is the election. And if they don't have a budget of some type, even if it's a 112, approved by midnight that night, the election can't happen. And who's going to be responsible for that? Who? Cliff Ponte. You're the president of the city council. It's your fault. It's your fault for not having this.
But as you said, CJ, if they got a 112, they can have it. They'll have a budget. But the thing is, what disturbs me is it was postponed because Mary Sahadi was not available. Now,
where was she? In Seekonk?
I have no idea, or Florida, or who knows?
Florida?
Or who knows? But I'm going to, and I've said this to a few councilors, and I'll say it out here because I don't care, because it's true. I remember a time when our city administrators and officials who had to do with money, we didn't have a CFO then. Do you know that it was in Bob? I know you know, it's rhetorical. But Bob Connors' contract and previous city administrators' contracts required them to go to every single city council meeting and be in attendance in the event that the council wanted to question them on a particular issue. I don't think that exists anymore. I don't believe Kathy Ann had, although Kathy Ann did go to virtually every, maybe it was. I didn't see it, but I didn't really look. But the fact is, it was required of the job because that's what you do. You have to be there to provide the legislative branch with information. And they were required to be at the council. Now, am I saying that if Mary Sahadi had a medical issue or some kind of extreme emergency issue that she could not, she had to be there every single night? No. But we're talking about, what, 4 or 5 days now between the last meeting? You're going to tell me she wasn't available for all that entire time? If we had a mayor who actually had some courage, he would have said, we really need to get this budget through, and we really need to get this budget looked at by the council, not because they're under the gun, but give them the ample time to ask the questions they need to ask, and then vote on it and vote their conscience. And if she said, I'm not available, his answer should have been, make yourself available.
But he's a very non-confrontational mayor.
That's what he should have said. If you don't show up unless you have a valid reason, and I am not saying if she has an absolutely valid reason, that it should not be postponed. But don't tell me that she was over in Seekonk doing her other job, or she used to be in Swansea too, and I think she's in Tiverton now. So the fact is she's not available, she's unavailable. Well, it better be a damn good reason, because this is supposed to be her primary job. She's not only the CFO, we have no city administrator at the present time. So therefore, it is imperative that she was there. And the mayor should have grown a set and said, make yourself available.
Well, he's non-confrontational, and it's already been reported that he has said he can't get rid of her because he needs her in that position because he can't do the job otherwise. He can't do the job otherwise because he's told people, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. He thinks he does, but he doesn't. And you can tell when he's trying to talk about it that he has no idea what he's talking about. So again, you must be on point. You must be on point, and you must know what's going on. Now let's look at how they got this budget out. They took $1 million from the school department, not out of their budget, but out of their CARES Act money. They're going to use that to fund the school buses. Now, this is one of those loopholes that might exist. If the schools are not open for in-person education fully, that means the number of school buses needed may go down, which means there'll be a reduction in cost, not an increase. We already have the reduction in cost from March to June, and CARES Act money could not be used for that because there's a reduction in cost. If that same reduction in cost exists for this next fiscal year, that CARES Act money could not be used for that purpose. You have to make sure you're on point. So I had a conversation with somebody who's a very close financial watcher of this city and of the school department especially, and they said they're going to send a letter to the U.S. attorney for investigation into possible misappropriation of CARES Act funds, because the city wants to use it for postage and for this and for that. I mean, they're nickel and diming the CARES Act money, and in some respects, I don't blame them. I mean, try to get every dime you can get because they don't have the money in their budget. But that's where one part of that money for public safety came from. The other part came out of the healthcare account. $1 million was taken out of the healthcare account. It went from $40.5 million to $39.5 million. Now, what happens when we need that extra million? What are they going to do? The city council is going to go, we don't have the money. There's no money left in stabilization. There's no money anywhere. What are we supposed to do? Not pay our bills? We have to pay our bills.
Absolutely.
And they don't understand this.
Well, not only that, they don't understand the fact that is supposed to be contractually, you're supposed to fund it. And I know that Sean Cadine doesn't see cock. That's why last year, and Mary said he can do it. But if they were challenged, again, nobody's going to spend millions of dollars just to prove the point. But if they were challenged, they would have to fund it. Alan Silva came up. He's one of the best numbers guys we've ever had, the first city administrator, a man that runs Fort Lauderdale for years, and told them you should fully fund it. As a matter of fact, Gallagher has said they should fund it 100%, but they never do. And therein lies the rub. You know, they're always hiding, robbing money, moving it around like Chinese checkers. And this is the why every time, this is the reason that every time we have a budget, it's a circus. Because all Mary Sahadi does is squirrel money away, have a little slush fund here, and overestimate here and underestimate there, so she'll have money to move around. That's not the way to run a city. That's why this city's a disaster. That's why cities that run like this are disasters. If you look at Newton's budget, simple. Budgets should not be difficult, a budget, because we have a department head. Every single employee, including the people who serve the mayor. We have an auditor, we have a treasurer, we have a CFO. All these people, all this should amount to is fire department gets their budget. They bring the fire department in, they go over the budget, they ensure that there's no money being wasted, they ensure, they question the chief. Chief, do you have enough of this? Is this sufficient? Do we have any unexpected things that may come up? No. Okay, this is your budget. And they go on to the police, and they go to DCM. They do that with every department like we used to in the old days when we didn't have these budget problems. And then what they do is simple addition. They take all the budgets and add them up, and there's your budget. Does that sound really complicated? No. That's why the police chief is making $100 and some thousand, and the fire chief is making $100 and some thousand, and we have department heads. Somewhere along the line, we became so bureaucratic, so worried about giving everybody we had a patronage job, and we got all these new titles, impressive titles: chief financial officer, even though we got an auditor and a treasurer. And an assistant treasurer, and a school department's got an auditor and a treasurer. We still need a chief financial officer. It's not really a chief financial officer. It's a chief finder of money, and you move everything around. And that's not the way you can run your budget. You can't pay a bill that you're going to have every year with money that you need to pay another bill, because if that other bill comes due, there's no money left. So there's your answer, people. Why do you get your taxes raised every year? Why do you get your fees raised every year? Why are they looking to take money out of the employee's pocket from healthcare when they can afford to take $1 million out of what they already got? It's because that budget is bullshit. And if we ever had a forensic audit, they would all be in jail. Okay? There's money squirreled. They overestimated, underestimated, and they robbed Peter to pay Paul. That is not the way to run the city. Every department's budget, if you add them up and then take the law department and the chief of staff and add everything together, when they submit their budget, it just should be a simple exercise in addition.
Well, it sounds logical, and that's the problem. It's logical. And logic doesn't fly in Fall River. Illogic flies in Fall River. That's the best way to have it, as illogical as possible. And we can't have that. What I would love to see Monday night, honestly, I would love to see one of the city councilors grow a set. And when that budget comes for a vote, just turn around and say, I object. And stop it right there. Stop it right there. You know why? The city needs a slap in the face, and this mayor needs a slap in the face. A heavy slap in the face. And that's what should be done. And I would support that city councilor right to the end. Because that would send a volumes to the administration that don't give us a budget the last minute. And this was the last minute. And remember, one of the other reasons why they didn't have the meeting on Thursday was because Sean Kadim couldn't be there. Hey, if you can't be there, the meeting goes on without you. There are 8 other members. It's happened before. It's happened before. But for some reason, Cliff Ponte wants to make sure Sean Kadim is there. Well, then make sure Sean Kadim shows up. The meeting is on Thursday. That's when it should be. This should have been held on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then they would have had plenty of time to do this, to review it. And then on Monday, they could have voted on it. But they didn't.
You're right. Yeah, you're right, CJ, because this is the most important thing the city faces. And, the question is not being asked. What I also would like to see is when they touch on healthcare, they can ask Mary, say, hey, how she came up with $45 million when she knew it was $40 million. And all of a sudden, she got back to the figure that's been around since we had that PEC meeting, fundamentally. Right. What are the extra 5? What is the $3.6 million that she couldn't identify? I know who it is. I know what it was, and we have a counselor that knows what it was now. But the fact is that nobody's going to call Mary Sahadian saying, well, it only went up 5.4% or 5.7%, depending on which one they choose. Why did you say 8? Why did you come in with a $45 million? Why did you put together dental and life insurance with that plan? This isn't the way. We're looking at healthcare. It should be purely the healthcare budget, and the numbers should be accurate. And as I said, there's no reason for her to screw those numbers up because she doesn't even do them. The only reason the numbers are screwed up is she's trying to add or subtract stuff for the rest of the city. We're not supposed to be running the fire department and the police department on healthcare money. We're supposed to be running the healthcare, the group healthcare. This is the whole problem with the city. There are no consequences and no accountability for people who are making mega money.
Okay, Chip, I gotta shut you down there. We're out of time. Thanks for inviting us into your home, everybody. Please remember, stay safe, stay angry, and call your city councils. Tell them to object to the budget on Monday.
112.